All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, and thank you for being patient with us as we considered matters outside of your presence, and which resulted in a longer break than we normally would ask you to take. But in any event, I believe we are now ready to proceed. Let me ask of the state, is there further evidence for the state?
There is, Your Honor. At this time, we would call Sarah Redden to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated.
All right, Mr. Waller?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Redden, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Will you please state your name for the record?
Sarah Rene Redden.
I'm going to need you to do me a favor and pull up close to that microphone, okay?
Okay.
I need you to speak loud enough so all these jurors can hear you and so the Madam Court Reporter can take everything down. How do you, again, what's your name?
Sarah Rene Redden.
Okay. Can you spell your first and last name for us?
Sarah and Redden.
And Ms. Redden, how old are you now?
21.
Back in May of 2013, how old were you at that point?
18.
Ms. Redden, where were you living in May of 2013?
In Raleigh.
And who were you living with?
My friend Troy.
Where was that residence?
It was by Crabtree Valley Mall.
Were you not living with your parents at that point?
No.
Why weren't you living with your parents at that point?
Me and my mom was having some issues, so I moved out.
How long had you been living at Troy's house?
Just a month or so, 2 months.
I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the other people involved in this case. Ronald Anthony, how do you know Ronald Anthony?
I met him through some of my coworkers.
Where were you working at the time?
Andy's in Wake Forest.
How did you meet Ronald Anthony?
There's a Walmart by the Andes, and I stopped at the Walmart, and he was there talking to my coworkers, and they introduced us.
When did you first meet Ronald Anthony?
At the Walmart.
When, though?
I don't really remember when.
Was it early 2013, late 2012?
It was early 2013.
From the date of this incident going backwards, how long had you known Ronald Anthony total?
No more than 3, maybe 4 months.
And you said y'all met out in Wake Forest. Were you living in Wake Forest at the time, or
Yes, at that time, yes.
so you were still living with your mother at that
Yes.
point? What was the nature of the relationship between yourself and Ronald Anthony?
We were dating.
What kind of dating relationship was it?
Like boyfriend, girlfriend.
Was it an intimate relationship?
Yes.
Did you know if he had other girlfriends?
No.
Where was Ronald Anthony living when you first met him and began your relationship with him?
He was living with the 2 coworkers I met him through. He was living with them.
Who are those individuals?
Michelle and Joey.
What's their last names?
I can't remember.
Do you know if he was living with Amber Alberts at the time?
Yes,
well?
she stayed there too.
Did you know what kind of relationship Ronald Anthony was having with Amber Alberts?
He said that they were dating before he met me.
You said you worked at Andy's.
Yes.
Did Ronald have any kind of job?
No.
The general nature of your relationship with Ronald, was it was a good relationship, bad relationship?
In the beginning, it was good.
What happened during the relationship that you would say wasn't good anymore?
His true colors started coming out, and he started to get mean.
Towards you?
Yes.
How about Travion Smith? How do you know Travion Smith?
One day, when I started hanging out with Ron, Travion was there.
When would you say you first met Travion Smith?
About a month or 2 after I met Ron.
And what was the relationship that you had with Travion Smith?
We were just friends.
Any romantic, intimate relationship with Travion Smith at any point?
No.
How often would you say that you would you see Travion Smith?
Whenever I hung out with Ron, he was usually there.
Did you ever hang out with Travion Smith separate and apart from Ronald Anthony?
No.
Okay. In other words, were Ronald and Travion always together when you saw the 2 of them together?
Yes.
I want to turn your attention to May of 2013. Were you still working at the Andes at this point?
No, I was working at the Highway 55 in Crabtree.
All right. And you said you were working with Troy, living with Troy at that point.
Yes.
On May 13th of 2013, Ms. Redden, did you and Ronald Anthony and Travion Smith have an opportunity to get together?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe that was a Monday. Is that right?
Yes.
What was the first time in which you saw Ronald Anthony and Travion Smith back in May of 2013?
I'm sorry.
May 13th of 2013. When was the first opportunity that you saw them?
You mean that day?
That day, yes, ma'am.
They came and picked me up, and we went to North Hills Mall.
When you say they came and picked you up, who came and picked you up specifically?
Ron's mom was driving, and it was Ron and Trey in the car. They came and picked me up.
And where did they pick you up from?
Troy's house.
And about what time was it when you first got together?
It was late afternoon.
And again, where did you go?
North Hills Mall.
Why were you going to North Hills Mall?
Because Ron has MA meetings, Marijuana Anonymous meetings that he had to go to, which is right down the street from North Hills Mall. So we were just going to stay there until his meeting came up.
So about what time was it when you first got to North Hills Mall?
The afternoon. I'm not really too sure on the time, but it was in the afternoon.
And what time was the Marijuana Anonymous meeting?
It started at 7 and ended at 9.
Where did you go in the North Hills Mall area?
We just walked around. We stopped at Moe's and sat there for a while. We walked in the store. We just walked around. We started filling out job applications.
Where did you fill out a job application?
Moe's and Ben and Jerry's.
What, if anything, happened at the Ben and Jerry's location there?
We were filling out our applications, me and Trey, and Ron was in the bathroom, and me and Trey was talking about what to put on the application, and he asked should he put if he had a felony or not before, and one of the workers walked past us and heard us talking about it and stopped and was like, y'all shouldn't lie on the application. It wouldn't be good. You won't get the job. And after that, Ron came out and we walked off after we turned in the applications. We told Ron what she said, and he went back in there and yelled at her for getting in our business.
Did you see this altercation?
Yes.
And what happened as a result of the altercation? Was security called?
Yes.
And this all happened at the Ben and Jerry's. Go ahead.
He told her to not.
No, I'm not talking about what anybody said at this point, but this altercation happened at Ben and Jerry's.
Yes.
Were you arrested or anything like that?
No, they just told us to get off the property, premises.
Where did you go after the Ben and Jerry's?
We just walked around. We didn't go no certain place.
Did you eventually go to the meeting?
Yes.
And you said this was Ron's meeting.
Yes.
Why did you and Travion decide to go to the meeting as well?
We were with him, so we usually just sit through it until it was done.
Were you required to go in any way?
No.
Travion was required to go in any way.
No.
At this point, Ms. Redden, the kind of relationship between the three of y'all, or kind of what was going on that day, any drama, everybody getting along fine?
Yes.
Good. Would you consider all three of you friends at this point?
Yes.
What happened at the Marijuana Anonymous meeting?
We would sit in a circle and they would go around and say everybody's names and say what they were addicted to, and then they would go through like steps that they would do and things like that.
And I believe you said this meeting was at a church?
Yes.
You recall which church it was?
No.
Anything happen at the meeting itself?
No.
What time did the meeting end that day?
9 o'clock.
What happened after the meeting in terms of, did y'all go, sit around and talk? What happened?
We sat around and talked for a couple minutes, and that's when Ron said he was gonna go.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I don't want you to tell me anything that Ron said.
Okay.
When the meeting ended, were the three of you still together?
Yes.
Still together. And where did you go at this point?
We just stayed around the area.
Did you go anywhere specifically?
Yeah, well, we didn't, but Ron went into a neighborhood across the street.
What did you and Trey do at this point?
We were just waiting.
Did you see which direction Ron went?
It wasn't directly across from the church, but it was, right in the area where the church was at across the street. It was a neighborhood right there.
And why didn't you and Travion join Ronald at this point?
He just told us to wait up.
And how long was Ron gone?
No more than 5-7 minutes.
And when Ron came back, where did you go at that point?
We walked down Six Forks towards North Hills Mall.
And where did you go at the North Hills Mall?
We didn't go to North Hills Mall. They were going into different neighborhoods.
And when you say they were going into different neighborhoods, who are you referring to?
Me, Ron, and Trey.
And what did you do in these neighborhoods, Ms. Redden?
Ron and Trey would check for unlocked cars, and they would get into any cars that was unlocked to find whatever they could find.
Let me back you up in terms of the area a little bit. Are you familiar with Millbrook Road and Lynn
Yes.
Road?
Yes.
And these are roads that kind of intersect Six Forks Road. This neighborhood that you were going into, was it in that area?
Yes.
Great. How many cars did Ronald and Travion go into in this particular neighborhood?
I wouldn't really know the exact amount, but it was quite a few.
What was your role during the time they were going into cars at this point?
I was kind of a lookout.
What do you mean by that?
When they would go check in the cars, I would stand by the street and, watch around to see if anybody was coming or coming out the houses or anything.
And if a person came out of the house or a car drove by, was there any plan for what you were to do to alert them?
No.
The two of them going through cars, could you see them going through cars?
Most of the time, yes.
How were they going through these cars? You said they were unlocked.
Yes. They had on gloves, and we would walk down the street, and when we would come up on a car, they would check the door handle to see if it was unlocked. And if it was, they would get into it.
You mentioned gloves.
Yes.
Where did these gloves come from?
A gas station off of Six Forks.
And who all had gloves that night, Ms. Redden?
Ron and Trey.
Did you have any gloves?
No.
How were the gloves obtained?
Ron bought them.
When they would come upon a car that was unlocked, would both of them go in the same car, or were they going in cars individually?
They were going into separate cars.
So, for example, Ron may go into one car, and then Travion would be going into a different car.
Yes.
At any point during going through these cars, did Travion stop?
No.
Was he participating in going through these cars?
Yes.
How long would you say you went through cars, or the three of you went through cars in this manner in the Lynn Road, Millbrook Road neighborhood?
About an hour or so.
And were they able to retrieve any items from any of these cars, or take any items out of these cars?
Yes.
And what type of items did they take?
GPSs, headphones, change. If there was any money, they would take money. Sometimes wallets. They would get into the wallets.
What were they doing with all this stuff?
They had backpacks they would put it in.
Tell us a little bit about that. And when did these backpacks first appear?
Well, usually when we hang out, Ron has a book bag all the time because he brings spare clothes and things like that. And Trey had one on too, so I guess he had his spare clothes in there.
And generally, again, if you can just describe these backpacks for us or book bags.
They were just regular dark colored book bags.
Were they book bags that zip up, or were they kind of those athletic bags that kind of have a drawstring?
It was big book bags that you zip up.
Do you know where they got these book bags from?
No.
Clothing. How were each of you dressed that night?
I was wearing some dark jeans with a t-shirt and a black jacket, and Ron was wearing dark jeans with dark shoes and I think a burgundy shirt, some kind of burgundy shirt. Trey was wearing shorts, a dark shirt, and some shoes, some red and black shoes.
The shorts. Do you remember what color they were?
No.
Now, Miss Redden, you're talking a little bit about breaking into cars for about an hour.
Yeah.
I want to back up, and at any point prior to this night, had the three of you gone through a similar situation where cars were being broken into in a neighborhood?
Yes.
Objection for reasons previously stated.
Overruled. You may continue.
And when was that, Miss Redden?
It was about a week before, and it was in the Triangle Mall area.
Triangle Town Center?
Yes.
Okay. Why were y'all up in that area?
We were walking around and we just came up on that part of the town.
The manner in which you described that cars were first broken into the night in question on May 13th, was that similar to how cars were broken into back the week prior?
Yes.
Again, kind of walk us through that, what everybody was doing on that prior occasion.
Just walking through the neighborhood, and when they would go up on one of them would come up on a car that was unlocked, they would get into it while I was standing watch.
And again, at this point, Travion Smith appeared to be a willing participant in those car break-ins.
Yes.
How many cars were hit that night or broken into the night at Triangle Town Center?
It was quite a few.
And I've said night. Was it in the nighttime hours
Yes.
that was going on as well?
Yes.
What kind of items did they get from the cars that prior night at Triangle Town Center?
Relatively the same: GPSs, headphones. In one car in particular, Ron found a gun and some bullets, and I think he found a lot of loose change.
You know what happened with that gun?
Ron told me he sold it to a guy in my old neighborhood for some weed and some money.
Well, let's go. Sorry to jump back. Let's go back to the night of May 13th. You said they were generally going through the cars that were unlocked, correct? At any point during this first set of car break-ins, did you see either one of them with any kind of tool or knife or any instrument such as that?
No, sir.
To your knowledge, Ms. Redden, did they retrieve, either Travion Smith or Ronald Anthony, get any knife or weapon or tool out of any of those cars during the first set of break-ins?
No.
Again, approximately how many cars would you say were hit to start with?
Between 10 and 20.
Anything happened during those set of car break-ins that, did you have to alert them to anything or did you get called?
Not that set, not at that time, no.
About what time would you say that first set of car break-ins ended?
Around 10:30, 11,
And where did you go at that point?
we kept walking down Six Forks, past North Hills Mall.
And where did y'all end up?
A neighborhood right past the mall.
Well, let me back up. Did you go to the North Hills Mall area?
No.
Okay. Did you ever go to a Bonefish Grill?
Oh, yes, yes.
All right, so back us up, and you leave the first neighborhood off of Lynn and Millbrook, and is that the point you go to North Hills?
Yes.
All right, and did you stop by Bonefish Grill?
Yes, they were just about closing up. We were sitting on the couches or the chairs outside of the restaurant, and Ron took out some things that he found in the car, and there was some change and, you know, paper clips and stuff, and he threw those things away, and a lady came out and told us it was closing time. We had to get up and leave.
And what was Travion doing there at the Bonefish Grill as well?
Just sitting there.
Did he have any of his items from the car break-ins already?
Yes.
And what was he doing with them at this point?
Nothing. They were just in his book bag.
Why Bonefish? Was there any particular reason why y'all chose to go to that restaurant?
It looked like the only thing that was open.
The wait staff or the hostess that asked y'all to leave, did y'all have any confrontation with her at all?
No.
Did you decide to leave?
Yes.
Where did the three of you go after leaving Bonefish?
Past North Hills Mall into another neighborhood.
And in relation to the North Hills Mall, and are you aware of the kind of big interstate there, interstate or belt line there, 440?
Yes.
And where was the next neighborhood in relation to in relation to 440?
As soon as you get off of the ramp area, there's a neighborhood right off to the right.
You recall a Rolston Drive? Does that sound familiar?
I'm not sure.
Kind of describe this neighborhood for us. What was it? Houses, townhomes, apartments?
It was small houses.
When you got into that neighborhood, about what time was it at this point?
11:15, 11:30.
And to be clear, Ms. Redden, are y'all, all this movement that y'all are doing, is it all on foot?
Yes.
Were you driving at any point?
No.
Ron or Travion, they have access to a car at that point?
No.
What happened there in that neighborhood?
The same thing that we were doing in the first neighborhood. They would check unlocked cars. If any one of them was unlocked, they would get in there and see what they could find while I stood watch.
And Ms. Redden, we were both in the previous neighborhood and this neighborhood. Were you a willing participant in terms of being, as you called it, a lookout?
Yes.
Travion and Ronald, both of them willing participants in going in through these cars.
Yes.
At any point during the night up until this point, anybody saying, hey, we should stop this, let's walk away.
No.
You mentioned earlier at some point there was you almost got called or you had to be a lookout. Is that what happened at this point?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Ron he went up into a driveway that was kind of a hill, and he was checking the car that was up there. Me and Trey were left by the road, and there was a car right there. Trey was, looking through it, and I was standing right by the car where Trey was at, and this car came rolling past us, so me and Trey just stopped and stood there like we were just, hanging out, and then we saw the same car coming back. So we ran towards Ron and he was already running towards us. So we all met up and we stopped and was hiding until that car went past.
Kind of where did you hide?
The house that Ron was checking the car, there was like some small wooded area right there. We were just hidden by the trees.
Did you see that car come back or anything at that point?
Not after that, no.
How about any police officers? Did you see any police officers at that point?
Not at that time.
Tell us kind of how y'all proceeded down the street there.
We cut through that neighborhood and we ended up in another neighborhood, and it had some, really nice big houses. And we walked down the street. There weren't too many cars on that street because a lot of the houses were still being built. And when we got further into the neighborhood, there was a apartment, a complex, or and under it was a parking garage.
How could you tell, Ms. Redden, how could you get into this parking garage? Could you tell at that point?
No.
Were y'all able to get into the parking garage?
Yes.
And again, to be clear, were these kind of like some apartments or condos that were on top
Yes.
of the parking deck? Did you see a gate to get into the parking
Yes.
deck? How were y'all able to get in there?
Ron walked up to the gate and pulled the bars apart, and me and Trey stepped through.
Were y'all all able to get through there comfortably?
Not comfortably, but yes.
How'd you get through there?
We turned sideways and slid through while Ron held the bars apart.
Was any tool used at any point to pry these bars apart or make any damage to those bars?
No.
Did the bars go back to the same position after he let them go, or were they bent?
They were bent somewhat.
What happened inside of the parking deck?
Ron and Trey would, check to see if any of the cars was unlocked. If they were, they would get in there and see what they could find.
At any point during this Ms. Redden, were any broken windows or tampering with vehicles in terms of having to pry them open
No.
in any way? Other than breaking into the cars, did Ron and Trey go somewhere else in that parking deck that night?
There was doors or storage, doors behind some of the cars on the other side of the parking deck. And Ron he had some little tool. I don't know what it was. He didn't have it when we went in, so he must have got out of one of the cars. He was trying to get inside one of those doors.
Was he able to do that?
No.
What about Trey? Travion, was he doing this at the same time?
No.
I keep calling Travion Trey. How did you address Travion and Ron in terms of their names?
Trey and Ron.
How about a mailbox room?
Yes, coming out of the parking deck instead of going back through the bars. Since you're already in there, you get access to a door that leads to where there's mailboxes, and then you can leave the complex period. We walked in there to leave, and there was mailboxes, and Ron used what he had to get inside a couple of the mailboxes.
Was anything taken out of the mailboxes?
I don't think there was nothing taken, but there was checks and things that he was going through.
This tool, do you know what happened to the tool there that he used to open up the mailboxes?
No, sir.
Kind of going back to one of the cars in the parking deck or in the parking garage, were you present when those cars were going through?
Yes.
And you recall one of them being a Scion, Toyota Scion?
I don't remember.
At any point in going through those cars, do you recall if either one of them removed an iPod from a car?
Yes.
Who got the iPod out?
I think it was Trey.
And do you recall what he did with that iPod?
No.
You recall what the iPod looked like?
No.
After going through the mailbox room there, what happened at that point?
After Ron had went through, then we left and was going back through the neighborhood, and that's when we went to one of the big houses. It was still being built. We went through that. We stopped there. We smoked a cigarette, and then we proceeded on to the apartments.
At this point in the night, Ms. Redden, everyone's still on board with this kind of what's going on.
Yes.
You've said y'all are all friends, all get along. Anybody have any disagreements at this point?
No.
Going further into the night, said you went into the apartment complex. Well, describe this apartment complex to us.
The way we went, it was like dirt. It wasn't an actual road, and on the left-hand side, the apartments were all being built. And so we went around and we stopped at one of the apartments they were all lit up, but they were still being under construction, and we stopped at one of those.
These apartments that were under construction, did they appear to be occupied by people in any way?
No.
Did you see any buildings out there that did appear to be occupied?
Yes.
Why did you think there was a building that was occupied?
Because the apartments that were still under construction were all lit up on the outside, and there was no cars. On the other side, there was apartments that were dark, and there was 4 or 5 cars in front of them.
So to start with, at least you went into an apartment building that was under construction.
Yes.
And why'd you go in there?
There really was no reason why we went in. We just went in.
Anything happened in that first building you went in that was under construction?
They stopped at the bathroom, and they were just, looking through their book bags, and then I needed to charge my phone, so I walked out to the little balcony area, but it was the ground floor, and there was a charger, so I used the charger to charge my phone.
And when you say they were going through their book bags, again, we were kind of looking at stuff they'd been taking out of the cars.
Yes.
What general kind of stuff was being taken out of the cars?
Just headphones, GPSs, things like that.
At this point in the night, Ms. Redden, had you seen laptops on either one of Travion or Ronald?
No.
How long would you say you were there charging your phone?
About 5 minutes.
Where did y'all go from there?
Ron and Trey said that they were going to go check something, and they told me to wait there. So I waited there while they took off.
Be clear, Ron and Trey leave together at this point?
Yes.
Could you see where they went?
No.
Did you know what they were going to do at this point? Did they tell you what they were going to do?
They didn't tell me.
How long would you say that you waited there in the apartment under construction?
5-10 minutes.
After 5 or 10 minutes, what happened?
They haven't came back yet, so I came from the apartment and stood in front of it where this little sidewalk is, and I was trying to look around for them, and I couldn't see them, so I went back and sat there and charged my phone again.
You mentioned a moment ago that you could see a building that appeared to you to be occupied.
Yes.
From your vantage point of that building that was under construction, could you see the occupied building?
Not while I was charging my phone, but when I was out by the sidewalk area, I could.
How far away was that occupied building from your position there?
It was a good ways away. You would have to walk there to get there. I can't really tell you exact how far it was.
In terms of half a mile, half a mile or less, or
More so, yeah.
still within the same complex that we're
Yes.
speaking about. You mentioned earlier your role in all this was kind of to be a lookout.
Yes.
Okay, when you were talking about the car break-ins, when they left you this first time, did Ron or Trey give you any instructions as to what you were to be doing at this point?
Not when they left the first time.
After you stepped out and said you didn't see them, you could clearly see that occupied building, though, at this point.
Yes.
Could you see them outside of that building in any way?
No.
And you mentioned there were some cars out in front of that building?
Yes.
Could you see them out in front of those cars?
No.
So at this point, from your vantage point of the building under construction to the occupied building, they are out of sight.
Yes.
What happened at this point, Ms. Redden?
I went back and I waited while I was charging my phone. Another 5 or so minutes go by and they still haven't came back. So I venture back out and they come walking up and they tell me to stay there until they come back and get me. And they leave again.
Did you see where they were coming from at this point?
Just up the sidewalk. I didn't see where they came from. I just seen them coming up the walking area.
Were they coming from the direction of that occupied building?
Yes.
And do you recall which one specifically told you just to stay there?
Ron.
Now, did you in fact stay there?
Yes.
Did you notice anything happen while you, well, strike that, back up. Once they told you to stay there, where did you go, where did you see them go at this point?
They went back in the same direction they were coming, towards the occupied apartment.
Did you see if they went into the occupied building at this point?
No.
You mentioned the cars earlier. Could you see if they were breaking into those cars at this point?
No.
Where did they go?
They just went back there that way, and I went back towards the apartment that I was at.
Did you go back inside of an apartment?
No.
Where were you at this point?
I was just waiting in front of the apartment that we were at, and around the same area. I wasn't charging my phone anymore, but I was still right there by the rail.
How long were they gone this time?
10 minutes or so.
Did they come back?
No.
What did you do?
I ventured out and I couldn't see them, so I kept going to see if I could find them. And there's a gate that goes in between the ones that are being built and the one that's occupied. So I had to go around that, and that's when I ended up where the occupied apartment was in front of the cars.
And what happened while you were out by that occupied apartment?
I didn't see them, and that's when a police car came around, and I went in the breezeway where the stairs were, and I sat there and I hid.
You say you couldn't see Ron or Travion at this point.
No.
Did you call out for him? Did you look for him? What happened?
I just, went around the cars, and I looked at the apartments, left, right. I couldn't see where they were at. I didn't call for them, though.
And the cars that you said that you've seen, they're not out by these cars either.
No.
Right? So what's going through your mind at this point, Ms. Redden, in terms of what's happening?
At first, I thought they left, but I didn't think they would do that. So I was just waiting till that police car left, and I was going to come back out and start calling their names to see where they were at.
And so when you saw the police car, did you try to hide?
Yes.
And where exactly were you hiding in that breezeway?
Under the stairwell.
How long did you hide there under the stairwell?
Just a minute or two.
While you were hiding there under the stairwell, did anyone, including Ronald or Travion, go in or out of that breezeway?
No.
Could you hear any doors opening?
No.
In approaching that occupied building, did you notice the balconies off the building?
Yes.
As you were walking from your position around the unoccupied apartment building to the occupied building, did you see anyone, Ron, Trey, anyone else, getting up on that balcony?
No.
Climbing up on the balcony using a ladder or whatever?
No.
When you left, or excuse me, after the patrol car left, what did you do at that point?
I waited another minute or so, and when I thought that it was gone, I came out and I was whispering their names, and I heard something that made me look up, and when I looked up, I seen Trey on the balcony of the second floor.
What did you hear?
It was just like a shuffle with just a noise.
Did it sound like a sliding?
No.
What was it?
Just like a foot, walking kind of.
He said he was on the second floor.
Yes.
I mentioned a ladder a moment ago. Were there any construction ladder around that balcony at this point?
No.
Any way that you saw to get onto that second floor balcony in terms of a ladder, door, or anything like that from your perspective?
No.
What was Travion doing on that second floor balcony when you first saw him?
He was wiping off the rails
And how was he wiping off the rails?
using his shirt.
When you say he was wiping off the rails, how long was he doing that?
Just when I walked up, it was just a few seconds until I called his name.
Was he wearing the same clothes that you'd seen him wearing earlier?
Yes.
You mentioned gloves. Could you tell if he still had on his gloves at this point?
No.
You could not.
I could not.
You couldn't tell one wearer. Did
No.
You said you called his name.
Yes.
Did Travion respond?
Yes.
How did he respond?
He looked at me and was like, "What's up?" And I said, we need to leave. The police just came by." And I asked him where Ron was, and he pointed behind him towards the apartment.
So when you say he pointed back towards the apartment, what was he pointing at?
The sliding glass door behind him.
Did you let him know at this point about the police that were in the area?
Yes.
Okay. What was his response to that?
Nothing. I just asked him where Ron was. He said, "Here." I said, "We need to go." And that's when I seen lights coming back towards the apartment, and I hid again.
Did he respond in any way to "we need to go"?
Not that I recall.
Was Ronald Anthony on that balcony with him?
No.
So when he pointed behind him, he was gesturing to the inside of that apartment.
Yes.
How long would you say you saw Travion Smith there on that balcony?
Just a minute or so.
And when you looked up on the balcony, again, you've said that these apartments appeared to be occupied. Could you see things on this balcony?
Yes, it looked like a grill or a table, some plants.
Could you tell what Travion was wiping off the rail at that point? From
No.
your vantage point? Anything about his demeanor at that point catch your attention? Did he seem to be excited or anything?
No.
You said you went back under the stairs. Tell us about that.
I seen headlights coming back down the apartment, around the apartment, and so I hid, and that's when a cop car, I don't know if it was the same one or a different one, came back around and stopped and was using a light to, look around. It stayed there for a minute or so and then left, and it stopped right there in the drive of the apartments.
When you say he was shining that spotlight, did the spotlight go over you, or were you hid from view?
I was hid under the stairwell.
Miss Redden, when that cop car was there and present, how long after you had seen Travion Smith on the balcony was it when you saw that cop car there at that area?
Just a few minutes after.
A few minutes or a few seconds? Or
Just a minute or so after, yeah.
well, the reason why you ran back into the breezeway is because of seeing the cop car.
Yes.
Okay, so, and in relation to seeing Travion, how close in time is that?
Just a minute or two.
While you were there hiding under the breezeway again, did you see Travion at any point come down from that balcony?
No.
Did you hear anyone jump from the balcony?
No.
Did you see him out in front of you, walking into the breezeway himself?
No.
In the breezeway there's a stairwell, correct? And we'll just go through some pictures here in a moment. But while you're there in the breezeway, did anyone walk up or down those stairs?
No.
And are you aware of where the victim's front door is now?
Yes.
At any point while you're hiding there under the breezeway, did you hear that door open or shut?
No.
Did you see anybody come in or out of that apartment at
No.
this point? And same thing with Ron. Did you see him between the time you saw Travion, the cop car, and you hiding?
No.
How long, Miss Redden, would you say you were hiding there under the breezeway? Excuse me, under the stairwell.
Just another 5 minutes or so until I came back out to see if the cop car was still there or not.
And was the cop car gone?
Yes, I didn't see the headlights, so
And where did you decide to go at this point?
I wanted to leave because they weren't coming, so I decided myself to leave. So I went up the stairs I was hiding under and down the other stairs to the other side of the apartments.
And what happened when you got out there on that side of the building?
As soon as I got off of the stairs, Ron was coming up towards me from my left, and he told me to just go.
I don't want you to tell me anything that Ron said, okay? Who did you see first?
Ron.
And how was he acting when you saw him?
Relatively normal.
Anything about his demeanor that, you know, had changed in any way?
No.
You said relatively normal. Calm, excited. What do you mean by Ronald being relatively normal?
He wasn't acting scared or upset or anything. He just, you know, just said, we need to go.
Where did you go at this point?
I went over the fence, and he said he was going to go find Trey.
When you first saw Ron there outside of the victim's apartment, was Travion present?
No.
You went to the fence.
Yes.
Were you joined at the fence by Ron and Travion?
Yes.
Could you see where Travion came from?
No.
Could you see where Ron came from the second time?
No.
How did they when was the first time you could see them from the fence line?
When they came up on the fence and was about to jump over.
So you don't know which side of the building they came from?
No.
When you saw Ron and Trey there at the fence line, how were they acting at that point?
They just looked like they wanted to leave really quick.
Why did you think that, or what were they doing that made you believe they were trying to get out of there quick?
Because when they jumped over, after he told me to take it and jump, when they jumped over, they were trying to get their stuff together and they took off.
When you say get their stuff together, what stuff are you talking about?
One had laptops in his hand, the other one had water bottles that they were putting into book bags.
And let me ask you about the book bags. You had these book bags throughout the night. Were you ever carrying one of these book bags?
Yes, I had a drawstring, like a sports bag.
So they had the big zip-up bags we've been talking about, and then you had a drawstring bag.
Yes.
At any point, did Ronald or Travion give you their book bag?
Yes.
When?
When Ron told me to go over the fence, he gave me his book bag and I put it on top of mine and jumped over the fence.
Could you tell what was in the book bag at that point?
No.
You said did you jump over this fence before they got there?
Yes.
Were you able to jump over it pretty easily, or how tall was this fence?
It wasn't easy to jump over. I kind of fell when I tried to get over it.
Did anything fall out of the bag when you jumped over?
No.
And then when Ron and Travion came up, were they able to jump over it pretty easily?
Yes.
You said at this point you noticed one had some water bottles and one had some laptops. Start with the water bottles. Who had the water bottles?
Pretty sure it was Ron that had the water bottles.
Had you seen Ron with these water bottles prior to him jumping over that fence?
No.
So from the moment that he left you there at the apartment under construction until he jumped over the fence, that's the first time you saw the water bottles?
Yes.
And he had them?
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that they had gloves on?
Yes.
When Ron jumped over the fence, did he have gloves on?
No.
And were you able to you said that he had water bottles in his hands, so you were clearly able to see his hands.
Yes.
Do you know what happened to those gloves between the time they were breaking into cars and when he jumped over the fence?
No.
When was the last time you saw him with gloves on?
When we walked up on the apartments.
On the occupied apartment?
On the unoccupied apartments.
Did he take the gloves off in the unoccupied apartment?
When we was in there, yes.
Did he ever put them back on, do you know?
No.
Did he carry them with him?
Yes.
So from the moment that he leaves the unoccupied apartment, he has his gloves with him,
Yes.
but they're not on him.
Not that I remember.
They're not on his hands,
Yes.
but they're on his person.
Yes.
But he doesn't have them on when he comes over the fence.
No.
He said one of them had laptops. Who had the laptops?
Trey.
What did these laptops look like?
I couldn't really tell because it was dark.
But you could tell they were laptops?
Yes.
Could you tell about the colors of them at that point?
Not at that point.
How about Travion? Did he have gloves on at this point?
No.
And kind of similar to what I asked you about Ronald, When Travion left you there at the unoccupied apartment, did he have gloves on at that point?
No.
Okay. Had he taken his gloves off?
Yes.
But did he still have them?
Yes.
Did you see at any time what Travion did with his gloves?
No.
The laptops that Travion had, were they in his hands or in a book bag? Where exactly were they?
They were in his hands.
Okay. What did he do with them at that point?
Put them in the book bag.
And was this the book bag that he was wearing or the one that you had?
The one that he was wearing.
When they first jumped over that fence, Miss Redden, did you notice anything? You said they acted like they wanted to get out of there quick. Did you notice anything about their clothes at this point? Anything that you noticed at this point about their clothes?
No, it was too dark in that area.
How long would you say the two of you, or the three of you, were there at the fence line?
Not long.
And who left first?
We all left at the same time.
And how'd you leave there?
We there's a hill that you go up and then over the expressway. Is that, yeah.
Belt line.
Yeah, the belt line to right near North Hills.
And prior to leaving that fence line, do you recall if anything fell out of the bags or while they were opening them?
No.
Do you ever recall seeing a Victoria's Secret box?
No.
You said you left and went over the belt line. Were y'all walking, running, driving? How did you get away from there?
We all started out running, but I couldn't keep up because of my asthma, so they were way ahead of me.
And I should ask you, the water bottles, there at the fence line, did they do anything with the water bottles?
No.
So they started running up Six Forks?
Yes.
How far ahead of you were they?
About 15 feet or so.
And what happened there as they were running away from you?
They kept running and I stopped to walk because my chest started hurting.
What happened at that point?
When I got to North Hills, I met up with them. They were stopped in the North Hills mall parking area.
And what were they doing when you called up to them?
Ron had a water bottle that he was pouring over his hands, and when he was done, he handed it to Trey, and he did the same thing.
Could you see what they were washing off their hands?
No.
Both of them wash their hands off of?
Yes.
How many water bottles did they use to wash their hands off?
Just one.
What they do with, so they had water bottles, what they do with the other water?
They were in their book bag.
At this point, when you get into the North Hills parking lot, what else do you notice about them?
Just Ron, he just asked me to use my phone.
And I don't want you to tell me anything that Ron said, okay? But did you give Ron your phone?
Yes.
And what was Trey doing at this point?
He was just standing there.
At this point in the North Hills parking lot, you kind of testified earlier that it seemed like they wanted to get away from there. They were, being quick. What was their demeanor like there in the North Hills parking lot?
The same thing. They looked like they were ready to go.
Okay. What about kind of the way they were acting made you think that?
Because they were not really fidgety, but just wouldn't stop moving. They looked like they was anxious.
Laptops are in the bag at this point?
Yes.
You still don't see any gloves?
No.
Any weapons that you see at this point, or any tools? Did you see any knives, screwdrivers, anything like that at this point?
No.
You said you gave Ron your phone?
Mm-hmm.
After you gave Ron your phone, did he make a phone call?
Yes.
And did he give your phone back to you?
Yes.
And again, are Ron and Trey together at this point?
Yes.
When the three of you meet back up there in the North Hills parking lot, are you ever separate from them again?
No.
And let me ask you a little bit about the relationship at this point between Ronald and Travion. What type of relationship did they have?
At that time?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
They weren't really talking, so they still looked like they were friends, like normal.
When you mentioned friends, I mean, they'd known each other. How long have they known each other, to your knowledge?
I'm not really too sure. I just knew that when I first met Ron, he called Trey his brother, so I thought they knew each other for, some time.
And to your knowledge, they do most things together?
When I met up with Ron, yes, they did it.
They were always together.
Yes.
And at this point during the night, did Travion appear to be upset with Ronald, or did Ronald appear to be upset with Travion
Not at the time.
at this point?
No.
After you gave Ron your phone, you said he made a phone call. What happened at that point?
He called Reese to come pick us up, and then he gave me my phone back, and we waited till he got there.
When you say someone was coming to pick you up and Reese was coming to pick you up, did y'all hide anywhere at this point, or where are you there in the North Hills parking lot?
I'm not sure where we were in front of. It was some store at the North Hills Mall. We were just in the parking area.
Where did the person that came to pick you up, where did they pick you up from?
That in the parking lot of that store.
All right, but do you know what store it was specifically, or
No.
gas station, anything like that?
No.
When the person that arrived to pick you up, what were they driving?
It would look like a dark SUV.
And could you see who the driver was?
Not until I got in.
And tell us about that. Who got in what chair in the car?
Ron got in the front passenger. I got behind the driver, and Trey was sitting beside me.
Was there anything else in the back seat of that car?
Car seat.
Like a baby car seat?
Yes.
And where was that baby car seat in the car?
In the back beside me and Trey.
Okay, so it was on. Do you recall if it was on the passenger side or the driver's side?
On the passenger.
So on the rear passenger side.
Yes.
So you and Travion are seated beside each other.
Yes.
Like inches apart.
Yes.
And Ronald's in the front passenger seat. And again, do you recall what type of vehicle this was?
I just know it was a dark top SUV.
You said once you got in the car that you saw who the driver was. Who was that driver?
Reese.
And who is Reese?
From what I knew at that time, it was their big homie,
Who's big homie?
Ron and Trey.
What do you mean by big homie?
Sustained.
Did you know this person to be an acquaintance of Ron and Trey?
Yes.
Okay. Was he closer to Ron or Trey, or do you know?
No, I don't know.
When you got in the car or in the SUV, what, if anything, did you notice about Travion at that point?
At that point, I didn't notice anything about Trey. He was just quiet.
Was he talking? Was he saying anything at all?
No.
And what, if anything, did you notice about Ron when you got in the vehicle?
He was having a conversation with the driver.
And after that conversation, did y'all proceed to go somewhere?
Yes.
Do you recall what route you took?
No.
Where were you going?
We had to go to a club called Flashbacks to put the car there because that was Reese's girlfriend's car, and she worked at the club.
Do you know where Flashbacks is?
Yes.
Okay, where is Flashbacks?
It's off of Capitol.
About how far or how long did it take you to get from North Hills to Flashbacks Club?
No more than 5 or 10 minutes.
During the ride between North Hills and Flashbacks, what did you see Ronald Anthony do there in the car?
He was asking.
Don't tell me what he's saying. What did you see him do?
He was showing the driver an iPhone, and then after that he had a knife in his hand.
Let's start with the iPhone. Where did Ronald Anthony pull that knife? That iPhone from?
I'm not sure.
I mean, was it in his hand?
Yes.
When you saw it there in his hand, you know if he took it out of a pocket or a book bag or.
I don't know where he got it from.
prior to the ride from North Hills to Flashbacks, had you ever seen that iPhone before?
No.
What did that iPhone look like?
It looked like a regular iPhone, but it had a case on it, like it was a woman's colored case.
When you say a woman's color, what color was it?
Pink or purple.
When you saw that iPhone, was there any damage to the iPhone at that point?
No.
It appeared to be a normal iPhone.
Yes.
After seeing the iPhone, you said something about a knife.
Mm-hmm.
When did you see the knife?
When he was talking to the driver, he showed it to him.
And where did he get that knife from?
I'm not sure.
Well, again, do you know if it came from a pocket or a book bag or anything?
No.
What did that knife look like?
One of those knives that you see some guys walking around clipped to their pockets. Just like a hunting knife, kind of.
In terms of length, how long would you say that knife was? And
The blade or all together?
we'll start with just the hand. You said, was it a pocket knife? that the
Yeah,
blade
it flipped up,
back?
yeah.
Okay. Without the blade flipped open, how big was the knife?
Like this big.
And then did Ron flip that knife open or unfold the knife?
Yes.
When the blade came out, how long was the knife?
Like that.
Appeared to be a sharp knife.
Yes.
And what did you notice on that knife?
Blood.
Had you seen that knife prior to Ronald and Travion leaving you there in the building under construction?
No.
Was that the first time you saw that knife?
Yes.
What did he do with the knife at that point?
After he showed it, he put it away. I don't know where he put it.
Did you see Ronald with any other items there in the car?
No.
Travion, you said he's seated directly beside you there in the back of that Tahoe.
Yes.
What did you notice on Travion at this point?
He was looking down at the bottom of his shirt, and when I looked over it, it looked to be specks of blood on his shirt.
And what kind of shirt was he wearing, do you recall?
I don't remember.
Prior to Travion leaving you there at the apartment under construction, had you seen blood on his shirt that night?
No.
Was this the first time that you saw blood on his shirt?
Yes.
Did you ask Travion about the blood on his shirt there in the car?
No.
Did you have any conversation with Travion about what was happening there in the car?
No.
Or what was going on? Did he make any statements
No.
in the car? How was he acting at this point?
He was just really quiet.
How about Ron? You said he was having conversations with the driver.
Yes.
How long did it take you to get the flashbacks?
Between 5 and 10 minutes, but we had to stop at the gas station first.
The seats there in the car, SUV. When I say a bench seat, do you know what a bench seat is?
No.
You know what bucket seats are?
Mhm.
Okay, individual seats. So they're in the back of the car. Do you and Travion have your own seat, or are you kind of on a bench?
It's on the same. Yeah, it's a bench seat.
How about the front? Do you know if the front are kind of individual seats, or is that a bench seat?
It's individuals.
What gas station did you stop at?
It was beside a hotel. I'm not sure what gas station it was, but it was a gas station and a McDonald's together.
What happened there at the gas station?
The driver went in to pay for cigarettes and gas.
How long would you say you were there at the gas station?
Just a minute or two.
And where did you go from there?
Flashbacks.
What happened once you got the flashbacks?
We stopped and Reese told us that we couldn't sit in the car because it was his girlfriend's car. And so before we got out, Ron changed his shirt and him and Reese went inside the club.
Let me ask about Ron changing his shirt. What did he do with the clothes that he changed out of?
He just put it in his book bag.
Excuse me. What kind of shirt did he put on at that point?
It was kind of not really a dressy shirt, but it was more of a dressy shirt than what he had on. Because it was a different texture and it was buttoned down.
At this point, you've mentioned the knife and the iPhone. Do you see that? Do you see those two items once while Ron's changing his clothes there?
No.
So Ron goes into flashbacks.
Yes.
He goes in with Reese.
Yes.
What do you and Travion do?
We get out of the car and we're just standing behind it, but off to the side.
Why didn't you and Travion go in the club?
We didn't have our IDs.
You were 18 at
Yes.
the time. Do you know how old you had to be to get in the club?
No.
What are you two doing outside while Ron and Reese are inside the club?
We were just standing there smoking a cigarette.
Anyone else around at this point, Ms. Redden?
No.
What are you and Travion talking about outside the club?
I asked him, what's going on, and he tells me to let it go, don't ask questions, just forget about it.
And did you follow up with that, or?
No,
ask
I
him
just
anything?
stopped talking.
And why are you asking him at this point what's going on?
Because when we was in the car, when I seen that knife and then his shirt, it's got me worried, so I don't know what happened.
And when he makes this response to you, does he tell you what happened?
No.
He just says leave it alone.
Yes.
What's his general kind of actions like, demeanor like at this point? Does he appear to be upset in any way?
Kinda. He was just really unusually quiet.
How long, what happened while you and Travion were outside of the club?
We were just standing there smoking a cigarette until Ron came out.
How long was it before Ron came out of the club? Or how long was he gone, I should say?
5-10 minutes.
What happened at that point?
He wanted to go get a room at the Super 8, so we take off towards the Super 8.
And you say he wanted to
Ron.
get a room, excuse me. Where was the Super 8 in relation to flashbacks?
It's up the street.
Were you able to walk there?
Yes.
3 of you walked together?
Yes.
And at this point, is everybody, you said Travion's quiet, and how's Ron acting at this point?
He's quiet also.
At this point, Ron appear to be upset with Travion, or Travion upset with Ron at this point?
No.
At any point, did Travion change his clothes there at flashbacks?
No.
What happened there at the Super 8?
We pay to get a room, and when we get to the room, Ron turns on the TV because he wants to see something on the news.
Wait, and let me ask you about that. The room. Whose name was the room in?
Ron's.
And do you recall how he paid for the room?
With our money.
With your money?
Yes.
Did you give him your money?
Yes.
Travion, did he give any money or put the room in his name?
No.
You recall where in the hotel the room was?
No.
You recall if it was first floor, second floor, third floor?
It wasn't the first or second. It might have been the third or the fourth.
When you get there in the room, you said Ron turned the TV on.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything on the news at this point?
No.
Anything on the news at this point?
No.
What happened when the 3 of you originally got in the room there?
We just sat on separate beds. Trey had one bed and me and Ron had the other.
At any point, did Ron leave?
Yes.
What happened when he left?
He said he was going to go to the gas station to get some snacks and some drinks, and that's where he went.
Did he bring back some
Yes.
snacks? Did y'all take showers at any point?
Yes.
When did y'all take the showers?
After Ron got back.
Who took a shower first?
Trey.
How long was he in the shower?
I don't know.
And did you see what he did with his clothes when he went into the shower?
No.
And did Ron get in the shower at that point?
Yes.
Did you go with him?
No.
You did. Were you in the bathroom when he was in the shower?
Yes.
were you in the shower with him?
No.
What were y'all doing?
He was taking a shower and I was by the, sitting on the toilet.
After everybody takes showers, you go back in kind of the bedroom area of the,
Yes.
of the room, and what's happening at that point?
Nobody's really talking, but I see Trey take out, you know, GPSs and headphones and things. He's looking at certain things in his book bag. And
What else did you notice him take out of his book bag at that point?
the laptops.
You said laptops. How many were there?
It was 2.
At this point, do you know what color the laptops are?
I think it was gray and orange.
And again, Ms. Redden, up until this point, and I guess the point at the fence, had you seen them with these laptops?
Yes.
The fence was the first time you
Yes.
saw the laptops. Okay. What was Travion doing with these laptops?
He kept one and he gave one to Ron.
Which one did he give to Ron?
I don't remember which one it was.
But he gave him one of them.
Yes.
Were they able to get into these laptops? What are y'all doing with them there?
They were trying to get, you know, there was passwords on them, so they were trying to get through the password to get inside the laptop.
And were either one of them successful in doing that?
Yes.
How were they able to get past the passwords, if you know?
I'm not sure.
Were you helping with this, Ms. Redden?
I tried to, but I'm not really good at that.
Did they appear to be good at it?
Not really. It took them a good amount to actually get into it.
But they were eventually successful?
Yes.
And the layout in the room there, how many beds are in the room?
2.
Okay. Which beds are you
Um,
who's on what bed, I guess I should say?
Trey was on the bed by the window, and me and Ron was on the bed by the wall.
And while y'all are going through the stuff there, the GPSs and all, were y'all talking about anything at this point?
Not at that point.
And you said it was kind of quiet.
Yes.
You testified that y'all all friends, known each other for, you know, a couple months now.
Yes.
Are y'all generally all quiet when you're hanging around with each other?
No.
What's the general demeanor like when the 3 of y'all are hanging out?
We're always goofing off, joking, you know, talking about normal things.
Did you find it unusual that everybody was being kind of quiet at this
Yes.
point? And I should ask you this earlier. About what time was it when you got to the Super 8 hotel?
It was early in the morning. Well, late in the night, or yeah. I'm not pretty sure what time it was.
Sometime between midnight and say 6 o'clock the
Yes.
next morning. Somewhere in the middle of the morning hours.
Yeah.
Early morning hours.
Yes.
You mentioned outside of flashbacks, you'd asked Travion what was going on, and he said to kind of keep it quiet
Yes.
or not talk about it.
Mhm.
There in the motel room, did y'all start talking about this again?
Yes.
Did you ask what was going on?
No.
What specifically did Travion say in terms of what was going on that night?
He asked Ron, like, what the hell just happened?
What do you mean by that statement, Ms. Redden?
Check the reasons previously stated.
Overruled. You may answer.
Like, he wasn't asking to, you know, get an explanation about something he didn't know about. It was more like he was upset that something happened, and he's asking, like, why did it happen?
So in terms of, you know, not what happened in there, but, excuse me, can't believe that something happened, but what just happened in here to get us to this
Yes.
situation. And that statement, kind of, what was the general tone he was using when he made that statement?
I mean, he was kind of nervous sounding. He wasn't mad. He wasn't loud or soft. It was just kind of a nervous question.
And you said, in his exact words, and don't, you know, you say, what the hell happened?
Yeah, what the hell just happened?
Did Travion appear to be, you know, concerned at this point?
Yeah, to me he did, because he was, you know, unusually quiet, because me and him usually goof off. And when he asked it, he sounded nervous to me.
Did he tell you what he was nervous about or say what he was nervous about?
No.
At some point, he mentioned about his son.
Yes.
What did he say?
After he said that to Ron, and Ron said what he said, Trey was just like, man, I got a son. Like, I got a son. Like, he was nervous about not seeing his son.
The interaction between Travion and Ronald at this point, how were they acting towards each other at this point?
When Trey asked him, you know, what the hell just happened, the way Ron was speaking to him, it was like he was kind of aggravated, kind of.
Aggravated towards who?
Trey.
And when Trey made the statement about being worried about his son, again, what was Ron's actions or demeanor towards Trey?
He didn't say anything towards him after he said about his son.
Ronald being aggravated or, I guess, upset with Travion, was that something that you'd seen a lot of in the relationship between the two of them?
No.
Okay. What was the general relationship between the two of them?
Usually fun, you know, we always had fun together.
So when you saw Ronald aggravated with Travion, you know, was that something that you noticed?
Yes.
Did Travion make any other statements in regards to what happened in there that night?
No.
After this exchange between Travion and Ronald, was there any other conversation about what happened in the apartment?
Ron said at one point.
Don't tell us anything that Ron said. Was there further conversation?
Yes, there was a conversation about them being happy that a little girl did not wake up.
How long after that did y'all talk about this any longer?
No.
Did you go to bed?
Yes.
What happened the next morning? First of all, let me ask this. Were you able to sleep that night?
It was fitful, but I finally got to sleep.
How about Trey and Ronald? Do you know if they slept that night?
I'm not sure.
What happened the next morning?
Ron's mom came to pick us up when it was time to check out of the hotel.
Where did you go?
She took me and dropped me off to Troy's house.
When you left there, the stuff that you were talking about, the laptops and the GPSs and whatnot, where did all that stuff go?
From what I know, it was still in their book bags. It was with them.
Do you know if they had divided up the laptops at that point or who had which laptop?
No.
And how about the clothes? Do you know what they did with the clothes that they had on?
No.
The knife that you talked about earlier and the iPhone, did you ever see that knife and that iPhone again after you saw it there in the vehicle?
No.
When was the next time after they dropped you off at Troy's house that you saw Travion Smith?
I didn't until we got arrested.
How about Ronald Anthony? When was the next time that you saw him?
When he went to sell his laptop.
I'm sorry?
When he went to sell the laptop.
When was that?
It was a couple days later, no more than a week.
No more than a week.
Mhm.
Who had what laptop at this point? Or what laptop did Ronald have at this point? I'm sorry.
I'm not really sure which one it was.
But so you and Ronald went to sell it?
Yes.
Who did you sell it to?
I don't know who he is.
Can you describe him?
A black male, not really tall, kind of dark skin with either short dreads or short braids.
And do you know what he you know if he had a certain business or hobby that he was involved with?
He did tattoos.
Were you present when the laptop was sold?
Yes.
And do you recall if Ron received any money for the laptop?
Yes.
Did you receive any of that money?
No.
Do you know what happened with Travion and his laptop?
No.
That week between the time that y'all left the hotel room And when you met back up with Ron to sell the laptop, did you ever see Ronald and Travion together again?
No.
I may approach the witness and if this is, take a break now.
Let's go about 15 more minutes and then we'll take a break.
Let me have just one.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Redden, first of all, I'm going to show you what has already been introduced as State's Exhibit 5, and if I may have permission for the witness to step down from the witness stand.
That'll be fine, man. Just if you'll keep your voice up if you're talking so that everybody can hear you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Redden, this map that we have here in front of us, do you recognize this map?
Yes.
Okay, you've seen it before in speaking with myself and
Yeah.
Ms. Shakita and your attorney. What does this general area depict?
Around here is where we were getting in the cars, and this is the apartment complex that we ended up at.
Okay. And Six Forks Road here, going on off the map, that's where North Hills would be.
Right.
Okay. You said that initially in the night there were two sets of car break-ins. One that I guess again would be up here off the map past Six Forks, past North Hills. Is that
Yes.
right? The second set of car break-ins that happened that night, was it what area of this map would that have been in?
Over here.
Okay. There's been testimony previously that two of the ladies that had parked their cars in the parking deck lived down in this area. Is that about where you recall the parking deck
Yes.
being? All right. So this right side of the map is generally where you were breaking into the cars. Now I want to go back up to the apartment complex area that was under construction. Using this map, can you show the members of the jury what building it was that you were in when Travion and Ron left you?
It was over here.
Okay, I'm sorry. If you'll slide back just a little bit, I'm sorry. Okay, again, if you'll let us know what building it was in that you were the lookout in when Travion and Ron left you.
Over here.
Okay. I'm gonna put a silver thumbtack and just let me know where to place it. Right there?
Yeah, we're over here.
So this silver thumbtack is the building that you were in.
Yes,
Now, the victim's building, do you recall where that building was?
right here.
And you're pointing to this building here beside, and I've called this the house with the pool. So I'm going to put a blue thumbtack there. Is that the general layout of kind of where you were and where you saw Ron and Travion go to?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You can go back to your seat. I'm going to now hand you 4 photographs that have been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 61, 62, 63, and 64. Take a look at those photographs and tell me if you recognize what they are.
Let me tell you one by one.
Sure. We'll just start with 61. What do you recognize that photograph to depict?
It looks like the bottom.
61. Do you recognize what that photograph is?
Yes, it looks like a window in the bottom apartment.
And from that vantage point of State's Exhibit 61, can you also see the stairwell and the breezeway that we've been describing?
Yes.
And can you also see the kind of the bottom of a balcony?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 62. Can you tell what that photograph depicts?
That's the stairway we were talking about where I was.
Okay. So kind of the bottom breezeway and bottom stairwell.
Yes.
And then State's Exhibit number 63. Can you identify that for us?
It's past the stairs where I was staying.
Again, the bottom breezeway, bottom
Yes.
stairwell.
Yes.
And then State's Exhibit number 64. Can you identify that photograph for us? Excuse me.
It looks like the bottom of the stairwell. Another one.
Okay. Is that the second floor? Well, not the bottom floor, but the top floor in which you exited to go out onto
Yes.
440. Does that look like that breezeway?
Yes.
So in other words, you would have had to come up
Those. Yeah.
these stairs
Yes.
that are kind of depicted on the right side of the photograph.
Yes.
These photographs, do they fairly and accurately describe the scene that you've been describing here to us?
Yes.
Any changes or alterations to these
No.
photographs? Your Honor, at this time I would ask to introduce State's Exhibit 61 through 64 for illustrative purposes.
Any objection?
No objection.
They are allowed for illustrative purposes.
And Ms. Redden, I'm going to show you a couple photographs that have already been introduced into evidence. State's Exhibit 2, do you recognize that? Excuse me, State's Exhibit 3, do you recognize that to be one side of the apartment complex building?
Yes.
And then State's Exhibit 2, do you recognize it to be the front side or the side facing 440?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to publish these photographs to the members of the jury.
Yes, sir.
Jason, can I see this?
I'll start with these ones that are what? Two. And again, if Ms. Redden can stand up, Your Honor.
Yes.
Ms. Redden, this is State's Exhibit 2 that we've talked about, the front of the apartment building, kind of on the 440 side.
Yes.
Now, using this photograph, can you show the members of the jury where it was that you first saw Ronald Anthony when you came out of that breezeway?
I came down right here and he was coming up this way.
Okay. So to be, again, for the record, so you're coming down the breezeway and you come down these steps that are here in the foreground?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get all the way off the stairs before you saw him?
Yes.
Okay. And so kind of if the picture went on down off the screen, is that the general area where you would see him?
Yes.
Rolston Drive runs right in front of that apartment complex. Had you even gotten to that street yet, though, when you saw him?
No.
When you got to the fence line, could you see where Travion Smith and Ronald Anthony were coming from in relation to this building?
They were just coming towards the fence this way.
Do you know if they were coming from this side of the building or if they were coming straight out of that breezeway like you came out?
It was more coming from the side of the building.
Okay, so, and then looking at and facing this photograph, the right side of the building where I guess you kind of see a house under construction right there. So that's the general area in which they were coming
Yes.
from. If we could move to State's Exhibit 3. What do you see here in this photograph, Ms. Redden?
The back side of the apartments.
You testified earlier about a balcony. And do you see the balcony in this photograph that you were referring to earlier in your testimony?
Yes.
Can you show that balcony to the members of the jury? Okay, so you're pointing to this
Yes.
balcony here behind, there's 2 trees.
Yes.
When you saw Travion Smith wiping down the railing on that balcony, can you point out to us using this photograph where he was?
He was around here wiping off this one.
Okay, you've said this one. There appears to be kind of a side railing and then a railing on the front of the building. Which railing was he wiping off?
This one.
Where were you when you saw, in using this photograph, when you saw Travion Smith on that balcony?
I came out of the stairway and I was standing kind of where the officer's at, but a little bit more closer.
Okay, so there's a Raleigh police officer dressed in blue, and that's where generally you were located. To get to that breezeway, Ms. Redden, from which direction did you come?
From this way.
So you've mentioned a driveway earlier. It's maybe kind of hard to tell from this picture, but is that the driveway that you testified earlier about?
Yes.
And you can kind of see a fence in the background of that
Yes.
photograph. Is that where the fence line is?
Yes.
So again, if we still had States 5 up there, States 5, you're walking, is there a sidewalk or is it just a road there?
There's a sidewalk.
Okay. So do you walk down the sidewalk?
Well, where the fence is at, it's just a road until I get to right here.
And so you walk down that sidewalk to get to this area?
Yes.
All right, if we can go to States Exhibit number 4. Excuse me. States Exhibit number 60. We can go to 61. States Exhibit 61. What do you see there, Ms. Redden?
It looks like the window from the bottom apartment and where the stairwell is where I was at.
You mentioned the balcony earlier. Does it appear to be a close-up view of where that balcony was?
Yes.
And again, this being close-up, can you show us on this picture about where you would have been when you saw Travion Smith on the balcony?
I was right around here. If it was a little bit further out, I was right around here.
You testified earlier about the breezeway and the stairwell. Using this photograph, can you describe for the members of the jury where you went?
I was back here.
And so you saw the cop car out in the parking lot
Yes.
that we just saw, and then you went in this area.
Yes.
Now, using this photograph again, are you directly behind the stairwell here, or this set of stairs?
I'm not directly behind it. I'm kind of right here where I can still see out.
So you can see out into the parking lot
Yes.
from your vantage point. So when you're hiding behind that staircase, can you see anyone come off that balcony?
No.
Or do you see anyone come
No.
off that balcony? Travion Smith or Ronald Anthony?
No.
While you're behind that balcony, do you see anybody come up or down these stairs?
No.
We can go to State's Exhibit number 62. What do you see there, Ms. Redden?
It's the stairway where I was at, and I was over here.
You were over where?
Over here.
Okay, behind the staircase.
Yes, behind the staircase.
And so this breezeway doesn't go all the way through because it's a bottom floor.
Bottom floor.
Did you come to know, or do you know that this apartment was the leasing office?
I didn't know, but now I do.
At any point, did you see Travion Smith or Ronald Anthony in or around that leasing office?
No.
If we can go to State's Exhibit 63. Again, I think that's just a different vantage point in this photograph. The stairwell there, is that where you
Yes.
were located?
Yes.
And then State's Exhibit number 64. Okay. Tell us a little bit about using State's Exhibit 64, how you got back out to the fence line.
If you see right here, these are the stairs that I was under. You come up these and you go across and you go down the other one, and that's how I got out.
So you come up the stairs here that you can see the stairwell, and then do you know if that's the victim's apartment there with the wreath on the door?
I didn't know.
Okay. That door, was it, open, closed when you went by it to get out of that breezeway?
It was closed.
And then you went on down this breezeway. If you kept going, that's the stairwell that we saw in, I believe, in the very first picture where I asked you about where you saw
Yes.
Ronald to start with. While you were in this breezeway, did you see Travion or Ron at any time?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Redden.
We'll go ahead and take a 15-minute recess now and resume at 25 minutes till 4. Members of the jury, please recall all instructions. Don't talk among yourselves or with anyone else about this case. Don't form or express opinions about the outcome. No media or independent investigation into these matters, and no conversations whatsoever with parties, witnesses, or lawyers. Leave your notepads and gather in the deliberation room at 25 minutes till 4. Everyone else, please remain seated while the jurors excuse themselves.